Good morning, folks. Welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing on, what day is it? Thursday, the 21st of April. I'm Joshua Barry, standing in the hosting chair for Derek Clark with Jonny McFarlane. Jonny, how are you doing today?
Good. Better than you, mate. What day is it? There speaks a man that's had a couple of days off.
I know, a couple of nice days off as well, so I'm feeling very springy, which is never a bad thing. Nice to have a break from the
Loch
midweek
Lomond, you were
game.
in Loch Lomond?
Yeah,
Whereabout was it in
Lachlan.
Loch Lomond?
Well, we climbed up Connacht Hill, which is quite a classic one, but we did it a little bit later than about 6 o'clock. So it was nice and quiet. And then we went to the Balmaha, can't even remember what it's called, but the little restaurant at the bottom of the hill. So a nice
Well
way to
deserved.
spend the day off. Yeah, exactly. A nice way to spend the day off and a good couple of results to celebrate. Which
Well, I
will
wouldn't
hopefully
feel bad
continue.
about thrashing you with loads of stuff to do today. That's good.
Well, yeah, obviously we'll be looking ahead to the Motherwell game. We'll have more of a preview tomorrow. We'll be speaking to Giovanni Van Bronckhorst tomorrow as well. We're going to start, though, Jonny, this morning by talking about a potential transfer. Subscribers will know that on the site today we have a real in-depth look at Ross Stewart, who's someone that's been linked with Rangers quite heavily in recent months. And as we like to do on the website, instead of just regurgitating transfer news, we like to have a good look at the player, give subscribers an idea of what type of player he is, and that perhaps, I guess, informs what type of direction Rangers are looking to go in the transfer market. So Ross Stewart left Ross County for Sunderland, has done pretty well down there, earned a Scotland call-up. What's your kind of overarching take on it, Jonny? Because it's not maybe necessarily a transfer that would get supporters excited in the first instance, or a potential transfer, I should say.
No, and it's expensive. I think Sunderland are talking about 3 to 5 million and probably pushing towards the latter end of that. We don't know if this is accurate or not. Perhaps Rangers are just taking a look at him. He was certainly a good player in Scotland, and he is a good player. When I heard the link, I was pretty dismissive of it because I don't think he's better than what Rangers have. But having read the piece that Craig Vickers has put together, and I trust Craig's opinion, he feels that he would be almost the perfect swap out for Cedric Itten if Cedric Itten was to depart, which I think we all expect him to, because he is a towering physical presence up front. But he's one of these guys, he's got that sort of slightly Duncan Ferguson thing about him, where he's actually very good with the ball at his feet, as well as being good in the air. And as a squad option, to give you height and power, Craig is really keen on Ross Stewart. And actually reading the piece, he details why in terms of his ability in the air without having a leap at the ball. He can get power in from just a standing start. He heads the ball really, really well. He's very technically clean, as Craig would put it, for a big guy. So he's able to take the ball in and use it well. He's not a back-to-goal striker, a bit like Itten. But what he does do is he runs the channels well for a big guy as well. So you'll see this, hulking, lanky, tall guy, running at the fullback down the wing. So he's capable of different things. And if you're looking for a player who's going to open the doors, and perhaps the thinking behind Cedric Itten was good, then you might say to yourself, well, let's keep the thinking, but swap out the player. And if that's what Rangers are trying to do, then I'm a bit more convinced they haven't read Craig's analysis than I was the day before. Because the day before I was thinking to myself, I've seen this guy play and he's not as good as Kemar Roof or Alfredo Morelos. That's probably not the point. I'm probably missing the point. In terms of giving you options for separate games where there's separate challenges, Ross Stewart might be a good option. Now, I'll let you give your opinion, but come back to me on League One and shopping in League One, because I put a tweet out about this. It's probably a little bit ill-considered, but I want to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, I mean, my reaction to it is that Rangers need goals in the team. If you look at, I think, Van Bronckhorst's football, the area in which they need to develop is that, and they have done in recent weeks. And, we can go back to examples that we've discussed, Jonny, in terms of the decision to not bring Kemar Roofe on against Dundee United, home games against Motherwell, even the home games against Aberdeen, where Kemar Roofe comes off the bench and kind of rescues Rangers. The chance creation wasn't brilliant. And I think in recent weeks, what you've seen, even with the inclusion of Aaron Ramsey away at Dundee and in the Old Firm defeat at home, the importance of runs from midfield and attacking runs from midfield and goals from midfield. I guess my reservation would be, I think you're in a position now whereby Kemar Roofe probably stays at Rangers, whereas I don't know if that was going to be the case a few years ago. A few weeks ago. Roofe's obviously 29. I guess he's probably got one last so-called big move in him, being a striker. But I think what he's shown Van Bronckhorst probably in these last few games is that he's ready to play more games, and hopefully there's a way that you can still fit him and Morelos in the same side. I think Alfredo Morelos, out of the kind of names listed that could leave this summer, Joe Rebo, Ryan Kent, Glenn Kamara, I kind of feel now that in a strange way Morelos is the most likely to stay because he seems pretty happy at Rangers, which hasn't been the case. Not that he's not been happy, but you've always maybe felt, is he the one to leave? So that being said, what you do have in Sakala, although he's rusty, is you do have someone who can score off the side, is pretty powerful in the air. But it's a bit of a rough diamond. Is it worth spending 3-4 million on Ross Stewart? But then Rangers might, again, you can see so many examples of players. Kamara's always the obvious one of a player who probably wouldn't have been an awe-inspired signing, but has got a lot of potential, and the club have recognised that. I'll put you back to your point though on League One shopping as you asked, Jonny.
Yeah, like I said something like, I think I'd had a couple of beers on a Friday night, and I said something like, Ross Stewart, not as good as Morelos and Roofe, and League One shopping, get that in the bin. And, that was probably my reaction on a Friday night without properly thinking about it. Now, I'd like to clarify that. Basically, obviously you can get quality in League One. Look at Joe Aribo. James Tavernier had been relegated from the Championship to League One when Rangers signed him. But my problem with League One, and more generally, is I think it needs to be part of a wider network. And you look at what Celtic have done in the transfer market, going to Russia, going to Japan, going to Ireland, going to League One in England for Matt O'Reilly. They went to Poland for Juranovic. There's a wide spread in terms of their net. And my concern is, for too long, Rangers have kind of focused a little bit too much, for my liking, on the English league. I think it's really, really difficult to get value in a league where there are so many giant predators. And I just wonder if really the best striker that Rangers could go and spend £3-4 million on just happens to be the guy that's 200 miles down the road. Really, like, the best striker in the world, like, we've got scouting writers who are going out and looking at leagues all over the world and coming back with some really interesting ideas and options, and you look at them and you go, is Ross Stewart better than these guys? Mexican internationals, guys in Sweden, and maybe he is, but there's part of it that just makes you wonder. Rangers shop there quite a lot, and clubs in general shop there quite a lot, and you think to yourself, is that because it's close and there's a good network down there of people that you can tap into? I suppose it's just a natural inclination for me that I would like to see a wide net in terms of foreign signings, and especially with Brexit making it so much easier to go to these places like Brazil, like Argentina, Chile. These are markets now that are open to Rangers in a way that they weren't prior to Brexit. So I think that's a huge opportunity, isn't it?
Yeah, and I guess this summer we know there's going to be some sort of rebuild. I think regardless of whether the new manager would come in, it's the end of a squad cycle, and it's important to refresh a squad after a certain amount of time. So you look at who's likely to go. Probably Goldson. Is it? We can only presume. you could see definitely Aribo and Kent in the last year of their contract going. There's a number of other players like Stephen Davis, Scott Arfield that are out of contract. So this is really, I think Ross Wilson in the past has had two main areas he's tried to improve at Rangers. One is improve the squad depth, which I think for Gerrard's team he did, and he improved that starting 11 with two players really in one position, and kind of Roof and Hadji, neither of which played the whole season. But as we know and as we've discussed a lot, made significant goal contributions. And then the second task was trying to, I guess, mould the squad that Gerrard had for what has turned out to be a very different style of football under Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. And I think one of the main ways you can see that, Johnny, is just off the ball. Look at the game against Celtic on Sunday, the Old Firm game. Rangers were constantly in 1v1 battles. They weren't tight and compact around the pitch as they would have been under Gerrard. And that requires a different type of profile. I think I kind of had this suspicion that one of the reasons Stephen Davis hasn't played is because he can't physically dominate anymore like a John Lundstrom can. He's not probably still got the same legs that a Ryan Jack does, and as such, you don't want to keep him isolated on the pitch. When he comes onto the game at the weekend and it's a little bit more tired, I think it allows him to show his quality. But this is the first, I think, real opportunity for Ross Wilson to build a squad at Rangers from from scratch, but to refresh it. And I think I was speaking to a scouting writer for us, Patrick Kasky, at the weekend, and you're looking, I think, now at the setup, especially in big games that Van Bronckhorst has. You look at how tactically efficient and I guess variable he is. And for me, I was looking at that game on Sunday, Johnny, and thinking, if he had a couple of more players in central positions, a couple of attackers who are a little bit more incisive in space, perhaps had better decision making. I think just his players in general, because he's, Aaron Ramsey's injured, Diallo hasn't worked. He's not had that so far at all. From my point of view, that becomes quite an exciting proposition to see what Van Bronckhorst can do when he gets his own players in, so to speak.
Yeah. No, absolutely, 100%. I mean, to be fair on Ross Wilson, the whole League One thing, I'm not accusing Rangers of just shopping in League One. Obviously, they're not. I mean, they've gone to Manchester United to get Amad Diallo. They've gone to Juventus to get Aaron Ramsey. They went to Poland to get Żurowski. And who was the other signing? Sorry, they went to America to get James Sands. So it's clear they are casting their net wide. I suppose I'm just trying to explain my Friday night 3 beers tweet, probably ineffectively. But listen, if there's value in League One, there's value in League One. So you've got to go and get it. You can't just be like, no, I'm not going to shop in League One or League Two because there's no value. And Joe Aribo proves you can get value in that league. So I'm just reticent about getting too excited about any signings from that level. But there you go. That's just me and my opinion.
I think a player that we'd both like to see Rangers sign, who obviously played for Bodo Glimt against Celtic, Saul Bakken, who looked an incredibly exciting player, didn't he? Coming off the right.
Really good.
But it is Zakowski's a good example of this. And obviously we've not seen him play much, and that's because James Tavernier is arguably Rangers' best player, certainly arguably Rangers' most important player. It will be a test of the processes. That's always the line that we hear about Ross Wilson and his work. And to be fair, I think when we look back at the managerial appointment, it's not been as smooth this year as it was during the initial month and a half periods when he came in. But this is where I guess you've got to prove the good work that you've been doing, the overhaul of the scouting department, and hope that it comes good in the summer, because Rangers need to, if you look at the build-up of this squad, Aribo, Kamara, what was that, 350 grand between them. Ryan Kent's obviously the big money move in amongst that.
Yeah, but that was money well spent.
Exactly, in a unique situation. Rangers will be shopping in a slightly different market, and who knows if they'll have Champions League money. Based on what the coefficient will be at the end of the season, it always seems to keep changing, Johnny, which surprises me all the time, because I'm not really sure what the eventual outcome is going to be.
No, so I mean, if Rangers win the league, they're going to be in the Champions League. It's a 1,000 to 1 shot that they won't, because it depends on if the Russians get back in and then Villarreal win, then they won't. Okay. But the Russians are not getting back in, and Villarreal won the Champions League. So, It's very unlikely, put it that way. And obviously, Rangers have are still in the Champions League, regardless. If they come second, they're still in the Champions League. You just have to go through a more tortuous and difficult qualification process. And then, of course, they've got another chance, which is by winning the Europa League. So, there's still opportunities.
Indeed. CGM, friend of the show, gets in touch to speak about Itten, and I think it's worth talking about because Itten is a strange transfer in many ways, but I think one of the strangest aspects of it is that, you wouldn't be surprised to go and see him score a few more goals for his country. You probably wouldn't be surprised to go and see him do okay in a league of maybe even higher quality than the Scottish Premiership, but it's just not worked for him, and I think there's lots of reasons to do with that, but I think more than anything, he's just not got the attributes to play in either Gerrard's team in terms of dropping deep, linking play, arriving late in the box, or Van Bronckhorst's team as a focal point, which is interesting because you'd imagine, maybe stereotypically as a slightly bigger striker, you'd imagine he had those credentials. But I remember being up at Ross County, Jonny, when I think that was probably his last start. And it just wasn't happening for him, and it just hasn't happened for him. And I guess you have to look at that transfer and say, how much, I can't think how much that was off the top of my head, maybe 2-3 million.
Yeah, it was around that area.
Bit of a gamble that hasn't worked out, isn't it?
It didn't look like a gamble at the time, though, given his record at St Gallen the previous season, where he was the second top scorer in Swiss football. It looked like a bargain.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I just wonder around Cedric Itten and what exactly it was they wanted from him.
Yeah.
Because I think somebody said there, Peter Lawrence, who's a friend of the show and always gives good comments, it's hard to really pinpoint what his best position is. What sort of a striker is he? Where does he thrive? How did St Gallen play that helped him thrive? Because he's not got a brilliant touch technically. He's not great. So it must be basically about getting balls and around him and his finishing. Mm-hmm. His finishing has looked decent. He's not exactly been a guy who's...
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going back to older fans watching this will remember, but someone like, I don't know, Peter Van Vossen, who had a propensity, he was a very good player, by the way, didn't work at Rangers, but had a propensity to fluff shots over the bar. Itten isn't like that. He's not missed a catalogue of chances. It's just, he hasn't really impacted many games, has he?
Yeah. Well, Alan gets in touch here to say, I'm sure he played as part of a front two, and from not watching St Gallen that much, but from my memory of reading and looking a little bit about it this summer, it was almost like a split striker system. And obviously, I think last summer, Jonny, we both thought maybe, Rangers move towards that 4-3-1-2, which we've seen Gerrard do in the Premier League now with Danny Ings and Ollie Watkins. I think when you see him, even for Switzerland, when he's at his best, is probably when he can play close to goal, play those little reverse balls around the corner, and I think he is he does have quite good movement in the box, and he must have attributes that are good enough to be getting an international call, because Switzerland are a better team than Scotland. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're a very good team.
Could there be part of it, mate, that in actual fact, right, Scotland now has two very, very good teams. Both Rangers and Celtic are very good, and the rest of the league has its ups and downs. It has teams that aren't very good at all, and it has teams that, like Hearts, for example, who are pretty tough, pretty robust, have a bit about them, can play, can put their foot in as well. So is it perhaps that we just slightly underestimate Scottish football? I mean, look at Rangers' record against Portuguese teams.
Yeah.
I mean, Portuguese teams all over the place just getting pumped out of the Europa League on Rangers' behalf for the last 3 years. And Portugal is on the verge of overtaking. Who are they on the verge of overtaking? As are they not pushing into the elite group?
You'd know that. I wouldn't know that.
Right, Portugal are on the verge of pushing into the sort of top 5.
Okay.
With France, I think it's France potentially dropping out.
Yeah,
that's a testament to what they're capable of and the quality of their teams.
Yeah.
Rangers have not really shown much problem in dealing with Portuguese sides. So perhaps Scottish football is maybe a little bit stronger, a little bit better than sometimes we give it credit for. Technically, we're a bit behind, but our top 2 clubs maybe aren't quite as behind as people might think.
Well, I think it'd be hard to argue against Rangers sourcing probably the potential and the level that others thought they would be now in the last 4 of you. And as we keep saying with that, Johnny, who knows what can happen from here. Right, well, we'll be back tomorrow morning, I presume before the press conference. Remember, you can subscribe for £1 over on the website, rangersreview.co.uk, and you can also be in with a chance of winning a first team shirt. I think it's signed by the whole squad. Am I right in saying that, Johnny? Which is
it is indeed. And imagine how much that could be worth it potentially. To have the bragging rights of having that on your wall. The Europa League winners.
Indeed. Yeah, well, I know, hopefully it'd be lovely if that was the case. So link is in the subscription. Remember, you can subscribe for £1, support our work, and support us if you like tuning into the morning briefing every single day. We'll be back tomorrow morning before or after the press conference. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday, and we'll speak to you tomorrow. Cheers.